Folk radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio. For the masses. Yeah. How you doing? How you doing? Today's Tuesday, September 29th, 2020. Man, oh man. Let's do this. 273 days into the new year, only 93 days left. We are live from a bunker that is somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planets. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? Yeah, man. Oh, yeah. Tonight, very special guest, Jonny Enoch is here. We're going to talk about Sylvia Browne's 2005 book. It is called Prophecy: What the Future Holds for You. I've got the book here. I've got one of the original copies of the book right here. And if you've never seen it, there it is. Pretty good shape for 15 years old. Going to be talking about this tonight. Some interesting stuff in here. And there has been a lot of internet chatter about Sylvia Browne and another book of hers from a while ago, but that chatter is not about this book. So Jonny Enoch will be here tonight. Johnny's always great when he comes in, and we're going to be discussing this. And I talked to him about this book last week, a couple of weeks ago, and again last week. He brought up some very interesting points. So we're going to do a deep dive tonight into this and a bunch of other subjects as well. Tomorrow night, right here, John Greenwald. John Greenwald is going to bring us the latest from the Black Vault. He broke a couple of more stories this week, and one of them, last week we had Ben Moss on the show talking about the 1964 Socorro, New Mexico case, of course, with Lonnie Zamora, and his new book is out. Well, since then, John Greenwald got the FBI files complete on the Socorro case. I don't know how John does it, but we'll be talking about that tomorrow night as well, and a couple of other surprises with John. We're going to do that. Also, what president, who would make the UFO disclosure president? Would it be President Trump or would it be Vice President Biden? Very interesting. And that will be part of our discussion tomorrow night. Thursday is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Now, like the rest of you, I just watched the first hour of the debate, commercial-free, between President Trump and former Vice President Biden. Vice President Biden. I guess you carry that title for life, right? So, yeah, and wow. That's all I got, man. Wow. Wow. That's all I got. We don't do politics on this show. But wow. Oh, man. Okay. Let's see. Have fun, faders. Well, this is the thing. Meow just said they're going to go watch the debate. Thankfully, this thing is over in 25 minutes. Wow. The ratings have got to be through the roof. That is some entertainment value there. Okay. All right. River Moon coffee. Man, I opened up a case of this today over at the house, and I was holding it. I'm like, man, I just got it. It's such a sexy bag, and I just had to bring it over to the bunker. This is River Moon coffee. This is Fade to Black blend. That's what an unbursted, unopened 1 pound bag looks like right there, man. And this is whole bean, but it's so good. My face is on it. This is just, and you hear me talk about it all the time. This is what you need to have arrive at your house and open it up, and you know, you just, it's the best coffee. It is absolutely extraordinary. Okay, so anyway, I just had to bring in a bag just so you can see what it looks like. There it is right there. Okay, all right, where am I at? Oh, don't forget, you can get your own crystal skull. Go to EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn Ford has got the most amazing stuff. When you click on the links, it'll take you straight to her store. The link's over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. We have some nice banners there, animated banners. You'll see hers. And head over and just start going through her skulls one after another. Oh, man. And use the promo code Jimmy. That's right. JIMMY will get you 10% off of your order today. EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. JChurchRadio. Corey just said, thanks for the no politics, Jimmy. But I do the comedy of politics. Oh, man. One of the great things about a show like this is that I am in control. That's it. I'm in control. I can do whatever I want. No network head's going to come crashing down, shut down the show. No, I can do whatever I want. And just like my social media and the rest of the thing, I block, and I do the same thing with the content on this show. I just don't have to do things that just mess with my head and put me in a foul mood, and would do if it does it to me, it's going to do it to you as the audience. You know, who needs it? There's enough of it out there, right? So here is our 3-hour escape right here on this program. Oh, I love it, man. I love it. I have 3 hours of no internet, no nothing. I can just do what I want, and it's just, you have no idea the bliss that I get from doing this show. Okay, follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio, at JChurchRadio. The sandbox is hashtag F2B. That's F, the number 2, and B on Twitter. We use TweetDeck. And I haven't given my TweetDeck speech in a long time. I don't have time to do it tonight. But get yourself TweetDeck. If you don't have TweetDeck, you're not using Twitter. All right, so get TweetDeck and download it. Get it. It's a Twitter product. Get it. And there you go. Sandbox is hashtag F2B, hashtag F2BQ. It's Fade to Black Questions. We have 2 chat rooms open, one over at Spreaker, one over at KGRA The Planet. Hello to everybody on YouTube. Hello to everybody on Facebook. Also, everybody over on Vimeo. Man, I was peeping out them Vimeo numbers. Holy crap. Yeah, man. There's bigger Vimeo numbers than YouTube numbers, and maybe even bigger numbers than YouTube and Facebook combined. Yeah, Vimeo's jumping. And, of course, TalkStream Live and KGRA. Okay. And tune in if you're listening on TuneIn. Let's get to the breaking news. All right, this happened over the weekend. Fighting broke out on Sunday between Armenia and Azerbaijan when Azeri artillery opened fire on territory held by ethnic Armenians, claiming it was responding to provocations. Fighting has since escalated to involve tanks, drones, and fighter jets. There have been reports of both civilian and military casualties on both sides. The land is internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan, but it is populated by ethnic Armenians. Now, Baku, Azerbaijan, considers the enclave to be illegally occupied by Armenia. Armenia has announced martial law for all Armenians, barring any men from ages 18 to 60 from leaving the country, and they must register for their military. Right now, the United States, Russia, and Germany have all said that both sides must sit down, talk, and cease hostilities as the situation is now on the brink of all-out war. Following an emergency meeting earlier today, the UN Security Council has called for a ceasefire. This is a very fluid situation, as everybody knows that is a listener to this program. I have a very large Armenian family and here in Burbank, which is Burbank and Glendale and Pasadena are probably the biggest Armenian communities in the world outside of Armenia. And it's a very, very, very tense situation for all of us. And we definitely don't want to see this escalate any further. A team of experts from the University of California, Riverside, have achieved a major cosmology goal by precisely measuring the total amount of matter in the entire universe. The research reveals that more than 2/3 of everything is made up of dark energy. According to their calculations, just less than 1/3, 31% of the universe is made up of both matter and dark matter. Now, dark energy is different from dark matter. Absolutely everything else is dark energy. The team did everything by examining galaxy clusters and employing a method called Gall weight. Gall weight uses the orbits of the galaxies within the clusters to figure out which one belongs to which cluster. This provided 98% accuracy in determining the mass of each galaxy cluster. Of the matter and dark matter mix, the vast majority, 80%, is made of dark matter, something that has bewildered scientists for decades and has only been detected through its gravitational interactions with other matter. Fascinating. And I still don't know how accurate that possibly can be when the universe is 90 billion light years across and we have no idea what's on the outside of that. But these are the numbers that they have come up with. Now, check this out. I've got some UK news. 2 stories. Tobias Ellwood, a British Conservative MP, has urged the government to bring in the armed forces for the rollout of a mass coronavirus vaccination program, which would include mandatory certificates that allow people to travel internationally. Holy crap. Speaking in the House of Commons yesterday, Ellwood argued that the mass vaccination scheme is a challenge of the scale and complexity of the D-Day landings in Dunkirk. And that's a quote. The MP for Bournemouth East told the Parliament that a vaccine would be 6 months away and urged Prime Minister Boris Johnson to use the armed forces to oversee the process of delivering it to the UK population. Wow. Also out of the UK, I saw the video. It's pretty incredible. The world's first jet suit wearing paramedic could be coming to the hilly terrain of the Lake District in the United Kingdom. Now, listen to this, using the 1,050 brake horsepower jet suit. That's 1,000 horsepower. A 25-minute hike in the hills was reduced to a flight lasting just 90 seconds. All of this according to the Great North Air Ambulance Service, which collaborated on the project with jet suit manufacturer Gravity Industries. The jet suit could be a game changer given the treacherous geographical features in the area, which is extremely popular with hikers. Now, the test was carried out at the Langdale Pikes with Gravity Industries founder Richard Browning flying from a valley bottom to a simulated casualty site at higher elevation. Incredible video. And I got to say, it's paramedic, it's a rescue mission and all that, but it looked really fun. There you go. That's all the breaking news I got. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Rita. That's right. Happy birthday, Rita. Right on. Andrew Dice Clay today is 63. Grand Funk Railroad's Mark Farner today is 72. I'm your captain. Closer to home, right? Today I watched a Grand Funk Railroad concert from 1971 at Shea Stadium in New York. Man, that three-piece band and Mark Farner, man, what? It's an incredible video. Go look it up on YouTube. It's right there. I'm Your Captain Live or whatever. 1971 Shea Stadium. Go watch that. Oh, man, he is just amazing. Les Claypool today is 57. Guitarist Al Pitrelli today is 58. And everybody knows Al is one of the guitarists in Trans-Siberian Orchestra. So you can go watch all those heavy metal Christmas hits. That's Al Pitrelli. He's absolutely amazing. He also played in Megadeth, Alice Cooper, Joe Lynn, Asia, Savatage. Yeah, Al Pitrelli today, 58. I think Al Pitrelli, I could be wrong, but I think Al Pitrelli plays his Les Paul lower than Jimmy Page. And I didn't think that was possible. And I always thought that about Al over the years. And it's getting lower. How can your arm be that long? But he cranks the neck up. But he's just a great player, man. Great player, very melodic. And he's got all the chops and when he wants to show that off, too. Somebody post me a picture on Twitter of Al Pitrelli with that Les Paul slung down to his kneecaps. It's crazy. I tried doing that. I tried to look cool. Like, I couldn't even get my strap long enough. I think Jimmy Page, those are custom-made straps. The same thing with Al Pitrelli. These guitar straps that I have here on every guitar in the studio here in the bunker, they don't go that low. They don't. You can only take it so far. Oh, man. I'm in a great mood. All right. Let's move on. Where am I at here? On this day in history, OTD, 1913. Rudolph Diesel. That's right. Rudolph Diesel, inventor of the engine that bears his name, disappears from the steamship Dresden while traveling from Antwerp, Belgium to Harwich, England. Disappeared. His body was found 12 days later floating in the sea. And to this very day, you thought I was going to talk about Wankel and the inventor of the rotary engine. No, I'm talking about Diesel, the inventor of the diesel engine. And there are many today say he was murdered. That was not suicide. He didn't fall overboard. Pretty incredible. On this day in history in 1913. Fader fact. Following. Now, listen, I vet these fader facts. I make sure that the information is accurate. One day I'm going to put out a fader fact book. I'm going to do it. All right? I'm going to do it. I'm going to put out a fader fact book. So I need all of the fader facts to be in line, including this one. Following the 1973 release of the film The Exorcist, 6 people who saw it had to be admitted to a Chicago hospital straight from the theater. That's right. I believe it. I believe it. Is that Al Petrelli? Yeah, that's Al. That's Al. That's Al. Look at man, he plays that. Look, it's literally at his knee. Look, the bottom of the guitar is at his knee. Man, he's slinging it, man. Al Petrelli. He's a good player. Good player. All right. Tonight, very special guest Jonny Enoch is here. We're going to be talking about Sylvia Browne's 2005 book. It is called Prophecy, What the Future Holds for You. Prophecy, What the Future Holds for You. Some interesting stuff in this book. I would suggest go and get this from Amazon. We're going to be talking about this tonight, and you're going to go, no, it's not in the book. Get the book. Get it right there, Prophecy. Sylvia Browne, 2005. All right. Tomorrow night, John Greenwald of The Black Vault, breaking all the stories right here on Fade to Black. Thursday night's another Fader night with open lines all night long. Right now, let me hit this River Moon coffee. My picture's right there. That's how good this is. See, my face is on the bag. Stuff is amazing. All right. Let me hit this River Moon coffee. Fade to Black Blend, rivermooncoffee.com. Man, that's good coffee. How is it possible that something can taste this good? I would say that that's up there with Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, Captain Crunch Peanut Butter Crunch, a ribeye steak, medium rare, and McDonald's French fries. I think it's that good. Well, here we go. Time travel is back in the news, and a paper titled Reversible Dynamics with Closed Time-like Curves and Freedom of Choice was published last week in the peer-reviewed journal Classical and Quantum Gravity. One of the main issues with time travel, as we know, is the paradox. It's quite simple, really, but it can get pretty complicated and mind-bending if you think too hard. So let's not think too hard about what a paradox is. I'm going to lay it out there like this. The easiest way to present the paradox issue is you travel back in time and you kill your parents. You take them out. But this would be impossible to do because that would mean that you never existed in the future. Therefore, you couldn't have traveled back in time in the first place. Got it? Now, researchers at the University of Queensland are saying even if time travel were possible, the paradox couldn't actually exist. Now, this really gets interesting because they've run a series of math equations. It's very complex that show no matter what, you can't change the future from the past. You can't go back into the past and change the future. That's it. Everything is set in stone. You can't change it. You may have freedom of choice in the past and try to make the changes, but that future events will always find a way to happen. Whatever you may try to do, you will be born. That's it. In other words, in my previous example of a paradox, you trying to go back and kill your parents, you wouldn't be allowed to. You couldn't kill your parents. The gun would jam. The bus would stop in time when you push your parents out into the street, right? They would spill their drinks after you drop the poison in it, whatever. Your parents are going to make sure that you are born on time on your birthday. That's right. Now, in a strange way, this new paper is a bummer. Although it may answer the paradox question that has been played out over and over again for decades, it doesn't focus on what is most important. Our own dreams of going back and changing things that we have managed to screw up in our own personal lives. We all, without exception, have had these thoughts. And what would we do if we could go back in time and fix some issues, right? Big or small, it doesn't matter. For me, It's more fun than that. Let me explain. Stay with me. If I could travel back in time, I would visit my old bedroom back in 1977 down in the Canal Zone in Panama. That's right. It's very specific here because that's when I started playing guitar. While there, I would place 4 music books, some tablature books. One for Randy Rhoads, Eddie Van Halen, Yngwie Malmsteen, and Steve Vai. Put it right there. I would also leave a mixtape with a little note next to it. Now, according to this new time travel paper, I wouldn't grow up to be the next guitar god, even though I gave all the secret information 4 years in advance, right? No. According to this book, my dad would have probably heard a noise in the hallway, woke up, gone into my room, found the books, and burned them along with my note and the mixtape. Now, as crazy as this new time travel paper may be, and it might be correct, by the way, here's another thought that may confirm their lab results. Because since as long as I can remember, and I'm talking about memories from when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, I've had these waking dreams that you have when you're not sleeping, daydreams, fantasies, whatever you want to call them, of me in a modern studio doing a radio talk show. These daydreams were extremely accurate. It was the adult me in a radio studio. I never understood it. Now, you have to understand that back then, I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to be an astronaut. My plans had nothing to do with music, radio, TV, or entertainment. That wasn't on my mind. But my plans didn't stop these very vivid daydreams. Right? But I just didn't seem to comprehend them. I didn't understand them. I didn't know what a radio studio, I didn't know what talk radio was. Was all of this that took place 50 years ago the future that couldn't be changed? Right? I don't know. But the daydreams were real. They happened. One thing is for sure. If the big me visited the little me, I didn't listen. I gave up on the pilot thing. I tried the guitar thing. And I waited until I was in my 40s before I decided the changes in my life needed to be in play for me to get into broadcasting. Maybe if I traveled back in time, I should just drop off an Art Bell mixtape on my 1977 nightstand. My dad wouldn't burn it either. He'd probably dig it. All right, this is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jonny Enoch is here. We're going to be talking about the 2005 Sylvia Brown book, Prophecy. There you go. We're going to be discussing all of this tonight. It's going to be great. A bunch of other things. Jonny Enoch is here. Everything is on the table. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. And I'll be right back after this short break with Jonny Enoch. Stay with me.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. with wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com. Go Beckley Tappy.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRAradio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Jonny Enoch. Tomorrow night, John Greenwald. Thursday night, Fader night. Open lines all night long. But tonight it's Jonny. We're going to be talking about this book right here. I'm holding it up to the camera. Sylvia Browne's 2005 Prophecy. What the future holds for you. Published over 15 years ago, with some very interesting pages that seem to directly talk about 2020 and the crazy year that we are having right now. Jonny's groundbreaking research has been featured in numerous interviews, articles, and has been well received at conferences. His goal is to prepare the public for full disclosure and create a peaceful future that includes space exploration and the development of consciousness-based sciences. Currently, he's a featured speaker on the Ancient Mysteries Tour of Egypt. He just invited Rita and I over to that next year in 2021. And man, I can't wait till I get to Egypt. Can't get to Egypt. I can't wait to get there. And the thing is, with Jonny, that would be the most interesting tour ever in the history of everything. Jonny, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm great, Jimmy. And it's always good to be back here with the Fader Knots. But Jimmy, probably the most important announcement we have today, what's going on in the world, is that it's Rita's birthday. So I just want to say happy birthday to Rita.
Rita is quite, how do I say this? I said happy birthday to her today in social media. I haven't seen anything trend like that in a long time, and happy birthday, honey. And that's got to, no matter what, that's got to make everybody just feel pretty good that people want to reach out and say happy birthday like that. But wow, pretty cool. Yeah, it's her birthday. This is the thing. And I know she's listening right now.
tonight after the show, we always, each night we have dinner, and tonight it's her birthday. And you know what the rules are, right? It's your birthday. It's your birthday. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? You just tell us. It doesn't matter what's on the table. We're going to go and do it. So I have no idea. I guess I'll wait till after the show and we'll figure things out. But yeah, it's Rita's birthday.
You know I love you guys and I love what you do. But I got to say that there is absolutely no one on the face of this earth that is doing more for putting the Armenian mysteries on the map than Rita. And, that's the thing. I think you guys got to celebrate it up right tonight.
Well, you bring up a really good point, Johnny, out of the gate. And that is, let's talk about Armenia for a second.
Yes.
Before I moved to California, I had never heard of Armenia. Now, I'm not the only one, right? Well, now, everybody, it's a different situation. But this was 35 years ago, right? So maybe I had heard of Armenia, but I had never met an Armenian and things. So I moved to Pasadena, California, which is it's Armenia Part 2. And the first people I met out of the gate were Armenians, and I got accepted into the Armenian world, and I have learned so much. I mean, it's unbelievable, the history of Armenia. And so for the last 35 years, Armenian friends and Armenian culture and Armenian food and now an Armenian wife and an Armenian daughter and Armenian in-laws and I've learned so much. Now, this is the deal, okay? And I love my country. I love America, man. I love everything about it. But you speak to an Armenian, and this goes with once you get outside of the United States, you're going to get this from people from France or people from the United Kingdom or Germany or Australia or whatever. The children there are taught real history, right? They know things. They know culture. Here in the United States, we just don't do that. Try to talk history with kids of any generation. It's not there. But talk Armenian history with an Armenian, and they will set you straight. And it goes back thousands of years. I'll give you a fact. That is so crazy about Armenia, right? The first Christian nation in the world, right?
Yeah, and it was Jimmy, and it was long before the Nicene Church Fathers. I mean, that was
the first Christian nation. Now, chew on that for a second. That is bona fide history, and it goes back so far in a series of first. You know what? Let's talk Armenia for a second. I posted a picture probably about 6 months ago. There is a sword in an Armenian monastery in Italy. All right. Now, this is the thing. It is the oldest sword in the world. Now, listen to what I just said. Came from Armenia. And it has been analyzed and processed and looked at, and the metallurgy and everything else. And it was impossible to make anyway, but the oldest sword. Think about that. And, people want to go, oh, no, it would be Egypt. It would be Mesopotamia. Wouldn't it? Would it be Sumer? Wouldn't the oldest sword come out of Iraq? Wouldn't it have come out of, no, Armenia. And that's what you learn, and you get into this and you find out. I'll give you, if that isn't mind-blowing enough, Johnny, and you can go down the rabbit hole after this show, right, tonight, just go and do a little bit of exploration. We all know.
I absolutely agree with you. Now, here's the thing with the Armenians. Armenia, that area is still one of those places in the world that still is imbued with that ancient magic. It has that connection to the Zoroastrians. It has those Egyptian connections. I mean, it's powerful.
Yes. And I'm just going to say this: Nefertiti.
Yep.
Armenian. And let me say something else. This is mind blowing. We all know about Stonehenge, right? 5,000 years old. Majestic, out there in the Salisbury Plains, United Kingdom. One of the most majestic, most photographed sites in the entire world. No question about it, right? We don't know how it was built. It's incredible. Armenia's got one. It's called Karahunj, which is Stonehenge in Armenia, by the way. It's Karahunj. It's 7,000 years old. It's 2,000 years older than Stonehenge. It's more incredible than Stonehenge.
Do you remember, though, Ignatius Donnelly and those guys that gave us the early works on Atlantis? They said they literally start to make a connection. Donnelly makes the connection over between Atlantis and Armenia. And remember, we have this idea that Christian scholars have always said with Mount Ararat, and this being the resting place of Noah's Ark after a cataclysm or a flood, where these Noah the Atlantean, we could call him, going into these areas. Armenia is this pocket full of secrets. Jimmy, you may have heard this before. Someone needs to go there and make a documentary. I wonder who it would be.
And this is the thing. People want to bring up Noah, Armenia, right? Yep. It's ridiculous. And then the icing on the cake, the coup d'etat, the absolute most amazing fact, Göbekli Tepe. Armenia.
I knew you were going to say
Armenia. It's Armenia. It's not in Turkey. It's Turkey today by a line on a map. But when it was built, Armenian highlands. That was Armenia. That's not, and it's one of the things that upsets me the most. And I understand, the Turkish culture and they just can't bring themselves to say the word Armenian or speak about the Armenian people. It's just the way that it is. I can't change that. I would like to change it. But they're making all of those discoveries over there, and they're like, yeah, check it out. Another Turkish site. It's not Turkish, man.
That's it.
Dig out another pillar, bro. It's Armenian.
Hey, the Hungarians have the same issue. I mean, those areas that we call Transylvania and a lot of the areas over by Romania, Transylvania, and all those sorts of parts, those used to be Hungary.
Yes. If you go anywhere in the world, and that includes throughout Europe, Asia, what is now Russia too as well, go south and head down into the Middle East or Africa or South and Central America. It doesn't matter where you go. The lines that are there that are dividing countries, that's all modern stuff. Africa is recently modern. That's all. The Middle East, that was all drawn up in the early 1900s. They just went in there and said, okay, this is this country, this is this country. And when we go back and we talk about all of this ancient history, we need to recognize actually what is going on and not only credit where credit is due to the cultures and civilizations that were there before, but you need to be historically accurate for the students of today that are learning. You can't mislead, and it's a very disturbing fact that we have to deal with.
You make a very good point there, Jimmy. And one thing people don't realize is they don't realize how close, let's say in the United States of America, they don't realize how close the official language was to becoming Greek, for example. It was one vote away. The swing vote, I think, was Benjamin Franklin. But when you go look over the Middle East.
Is that true? Is that a fact?
Google it. Google it.
We were one vote away. We were one vote away from lamb.
One vote away from almost becoming Greek. And if you look at the early portrayals of even like George Washington and others who wanted to be portrayed like the statue of Olympus, the Olympian Zeus, and he wanted to have that portrayal that sort of looks like the Baphomet, where he's pointing one finger in the air and the sword is pointed inwards to give the power back to the people. A lot of the early American settlers and the founding fathers, they all had a classical education. They were all well versed in Latin and Greek. And so there was a changeover. But with that being said, Jimmy, what you just said, let's back it up.
Okay.
When you look around the Middle East today, a lot of people say, they go, oh, everybody speaks Arabic. They say, look over in Egypt or look over in, let's say, a country called Lebanon, and say, well, they must speak Arabic because they got this Arabic lettering and language. No, it's quite different. If you go to Lebanon, they speak Lebanese. If you go to Egypt, they speak Egyptian. And they kind of understand each other with some similarities, but that influence came from the Ottomans, right?
Well, and half of Lebanon, Armenian. You know, and it's really funny because you'll meet, oh, you're Armenian. Well, I'm Lebanese Armenian. And the Armenian that they speak is it's still Armenian, but I have trouble understanding it, and it sounds strange to me, and Armenians have that same problem as well. But Armenia reached out all around the world. Their influence back then, when you go to 1000 BC to 1000 AD, that period. The Armenian influence was global and reached all through Europe. And we have to, there's a couple of other elements that come into play here, and that is languages and alphabets. And you go and you look at some of the symbology of and you trace the etymology of words and languages from Spain, from the United Kingdom, from France. And you look at it and you see how it traces right back to Armenia, including the alphabet. It's absolutely incredible, the influence that Armenia has had on the world. And that's when you look at a few I keep talking about Christianity, and you brought up Noah's Ark and Mount Ararat. You look at some of the other facts there. Yeah, the first Christian nation in the world, first monastery, right? First, it's still running to this day, right? It's and the country is just not only is it Christian, but the churches that are there. Some of them are. We're talking about, when I say ancient, I mean truly ancient. We would love to get some property over there and get a house. And I told Rita, we just got to move to one of those towns where we buy a house next to a church that is 2,000 years old. I mean, just think, and just walk out your front door and see something like that. But yeah,
Jimmy,
you're absolutely right.
When you go back over to Armenia and when you go there with Rita, they're probably going to think the great hike has returned.
Oh man, I said to Rita, I said, if I get baptized, can I change my name to Hike? Oh man, all of my Armenian friends, their heads just spun around. What did he just say? But yeah, we when we bought our house here in Burbank, there was a gas station next to the house, and I needed some stuff. I think I rented a U-Haul or something. Anyway, so I go in and I meet the owner, and I said, "Oh, really?" He said that he owned the gas station. I said, "Okay, cool. What's your name?" Hike. I said, "Hike." What's up, man? And we're still friends to this day. It's been 10 years. Hike. Okay.
I love it.
All right.
I love it. And that's the greatest thing. Everybody who's listening to the show today, all the Fadernauts, I'm sure everybody can relate to this. If you take just a moment out of your day to learn someone else's language, their culture, their history, their religious roots, whatever it is, first of all, you realize that we're all connected and every culture has the seed of every other culture. But when you take that time to see a name like Hike or you say hello to somebody in that language, it builds a bridge that it's always there, you know?
Well, and the area here, this is one of the things that is amazing when we talk about Pasadena, Glendale, and Burbank. The Armenian community moved here years ago into Pasadena and Altadena and transformed the city. And they transformed Glendale. Anybody that was around in the mid 80s and knew about the city of Glendale, it's only 30 years ago, right? 35 years ago. 1985, downtown Glendale was a no man's land. And anybody listening to me, I'm not talking smack. It's just the way that it was. And I spent a lot of time there. I even lived there for a short time. And it was embarrassing. It was, and Armenians moved in and transformed Glendale, transformed it. It is now the hippest, coolest, most developed and beautiful part of Los Angeles. And they did it in such a short time. It's incredible. It's incredible what the city of Glendale has turned into. And it's the same thing for the city of Burbank and Pasadena and downtown Pasadena and Old Town. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. That's happy birthday, Rita. There you go.
Happy birthday, Rita.
Happy birthday. Big influence. She just texted me, by the way, everybody. She said, if you could have gone back in time, you should have warned yourself to stay away from Armenians. that was the text. Oh, man. Oh, all right. Can I tell one Armenian story?
Please, you got it. This is we're on an Armenian roll.
Okay, yeah, we're on an Armenian roll. I can't let those go. So I'm like 20 years old. I'm 21. And I'm hanging out at my friend's house up in Altadena. And every morning when I would show up there, her mom, she lived at home with her mom and dad and her brothers and sisters. But her mom would be sitting out next to the pool, a table with like 6 or 8 chairs, with all of her friends, all of her lady friends, sitting and drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes. And I would see this happen all the time. And I thought, man, what a cool little group, right? Every day, man, every day, they're always out there. Now I understand, right? But back then, new to me. And so one day I went out there, and it turned out they were out there reading their fortunes. And they do it by coffee cups. So so the Armenian coffee is poured. It's real thick, and they're like little shot glasses, right? Little mini coffee cups, little tiny coffee cups. And the Armenian coffee is real thick. It's like espresso. Same thing, but you get the grounds with the coffee, right? So that goes in, and you let the coffee sit for a minute. So the coffee grounds are at the bottom. Then you sip your coffee. When you're done, the coffee grounds are in the bottom of the cup. And you take the cup and you flip it like this onto your saucer. And the grounds drip down on the sides. And you let it sit there, dry for, a couple of minutes. And then they look at the cup and they read your fortune, right? And so I'm like, okay, I'm one in on this action. They were like, Jimmy, let's read your coffee. I said, okay, all right. So I sit down and I drink the coffee. I got my long hair, I'm 21 years old. And I'm just excited. I drink my coffee, flip my cup, bam, right? And my friend's mom looked at my coffee cup. And this is a fact. I think I've told the story before on the show. She looks at my coffee cup and says, you owe $185 rent, but you're going to get the money tomorrow.
Wow.
Right?
Oh, my God.
Now, this is the thing. It was true. And I said, give me that cup. And I look and I go, how do you see? She goes, right there. See? 185. And there was a 185 in the coffee grounds.
Jeez.
And I'm looking, I was like, man. Next day, I got the money. I paid my rent. Yeah. And you know what else I did? I came back to get my fortune read again. I was hanging out with the old ladies next to the swimming pool, and I just, man. And to this day, it goes on. The Armenians right now that are listening are laughing their butt off because they know this is part of it, man. It's the world.
I love that. I love it. So it's like an infusion of Juan Valdez meets, the tea leaf reading, and here it is. She's like, did you see the 185 right away, or did she actually have to point it out to you?
Yeah, no, listen, no, I didn't. But when she pointed it out, it was clear as day.
God.
It was clear as day. It messed with me. In a great way, but I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I can't express enough what it was like to go into this Armenian family. And look, this is the thing. Armenian families are tight. So It's not mom and dad and the kids. It's mom, dad, brothers, sisters, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, extended out. So this Armenian family I was introduced to, and the other 150 that were part of this family, and it's unbelievable. I was in Vegas. This was about the brother of the sister that I'm talking about, right? The son of the lady that read this. I'm not going to say his name on the air, but this is probably around the year 2000. I'm in Las Vegas, and I haven't seen this family for 15 years or something, 1990, 10 years. And it's around the year 2000. I'm walking through which casino was it? Anyway, I'm walking through a casino, and he walks by me, and I hear Jimmy, and I turn around, and it's him. I hadn't seen him in 10 years. Hadn't changed much. But what a great thing to have happen, right, for us to bump into each other. And that extended family just continues, and it will continue for the rest of my life. So there you go.
I love that. I have a Zoroastrian lawyer friend of mine, and he's here in Canada, but he was originally from Iran. He's Persian. And he tells me, when we talked all about Zoroastrianism, because once in a while I'll be doing some work on ancient cultures and civilizations, and I brought up the Armenians with him because, when we look at this idea of the ancient zodiac, which is really fascinating, and I know that Rita looks into that too, the circular zodiac.
Absolutely.
The Armenians. And he said, we absolutely have a profound love. The Zoroastrians have a profound love for the Armenians, and they see them as their direct relatives, and they absolutely love their culture. They're loved around the world.
Let's take our break right here. Jonny Enoch is our guest. When we come back, we're going to do a deep dive into the 2005 book by Sylvia Browne. I'm holding it up to the camera. It's called Prophecy, What the Future Holds for You. Some amazing stuff. Get ready. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
We're of the Honey Brothers.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jonny Enoch. We're going to be talking about Sylvia Browne's 2005 book, Prophecy, What the Future Holds for You. As you can see, I've got one of the original books right here. You can still find them online. And I would suggest after tonight's show,
going and getting yourself a copy. It's so funny. I'm pushing a book that is 15 years old, Johnny. It's absolutely incredible. And
it is. But Jimmy, here's the thing: it was reprinted. It was reprinted in 2015, but it was originally printed in it was reprinted in 2005. When we talk about it being 15 years old, but it was originally printed in 2004.
An extra year of mystery. Can you imagine? Can you imagine, Johnny? You live on the West Coast. You're up in Canada, right? Right. You have no history up there. There's nothing there. Everything there is 100 years old, right? You don't. Could you imagine? I come up and visit you, and I go, okay. So what's historical around here? Well, that was built in 1900. That's a pretty old building over there. You go to Armenia. You go to Yerevan. So what's history here? And they point. Noah. that's a whole nother conversation. I had to crack the joke, but if you think about it, that's crazy when you think about that. All right, let's move on to this book. How did you stumble upon it? Actually, let's start there, Johnny.
Okay, well, the last little while I've been going back and forth, flying back and forth, working on production since the beginning of the summer. And it's been very busy. And I had to take my mind off of things because I've been writing from morning to night. We are doing some filming up in Gaia. And by the way, before we go forward to how I stumbled on this book, let me just say one more time since the commercial break to anyone who's listening to this, if you're not a Fader Not yet, you got to sign up. You got to support this show. You got to support Jimmy. In my opinion, this is the greatest show on these subjects, point blank. And I got to say this, Jimmy, I got to do this right now because whenever I travel, if I run into somebody, they know me from being on the show. I've had so many really cool Fader Knots come out of the mix. And I told you this story that when I was traveling recently, that at the beginning of last month, even one of the border people, they saw my name and he goes, "Hey, Jonny Enoch." And he goes, "I love all this stuff, crystal skulls and all that." Because he said, "Well, what's the nature of your travel?" And he knew my name from your show because he's a Fader Not.
A Canadian customs guy.
This was U.S. Yeah, absolutely. This was actually coming back onto the Canadian side.
Okay, so it was U.S. customs agent.
Yeah, so
okay,
absolutely, and it doesn't matter, when we go around the world, people their Fader Knots are everywhere. So I want to say that first and foremost. Thank you to all the Fader Knots out there, and if you're not a Fader Knot, please sign up, support this show because I love this show and I love coming on.
Yeah,
Secondly, with this book, how I stumbled on it, Jimmy, is that the last few months I've just been in this bubble of morning to night, writing and filming and trying to finish off different projects before there's any more shutdowns or anything. All the studios and people are like, "Hey, you got to get in here. You got to get this done as quick as possible." So I had this box of books and it's in the corner of my office. And it was given to me by a friend of mine out here who is a Métis elder and an ET contactee. His name is Derek White Sky Cloud. And he gives me really cool spiritual gifts once in a while, little books and things he finds. He said, "Johnny, you should have this box of Sylvia Brown books." He's like, "I got them from a vintage store and a used store." And he's like, people are talking about Sylvia Brown. There's been a kind of some people sharing a quote online that she had from one of her books.
Mm-hmm.
But every time, Jimmy, I'd walk by this box of books in the nighttime. I was just looking to get my mind off of this crazy world of writing and hustling and bustling. And I see this book and it's Sylvia Brown Prophecy. And it starts calling out to me. So I go and pick it up. And one night I just start flipping it open. And I was floored when I started to see how incredibly on point this book was. Now, you yourself just got this book. What was your first impression when you flipped it open and started looking at it?
Yeah, well, see, this is the thing. I just want the audience to know that Johnny and I were talking about some other stuff a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, "Jimmy, it's the Sylvia Brown book." And he started laying things. I was like, say what? And his excitement. But the thing is that Johnny started to see one thing after another and pointed it out to me. I immediately purchased the book that day. And I thought to myself, and it's the same advice that I gave to myself that I need to repeat to the audience. You're going to hear some things tonight that are incredible, that border on the fantastical. There's only one thing to do. That is to get the book. Go and get it for yourself, and you'll see. So, yeah, Johnny, I had to do that. There are some pages in this book that I can't explain. It's very difficult. So, okay, when you... what caught your eye first?
Okay, so let's just say that when we open up this book, the first half of the book there's a lot of preamble by her co-author, who is Lindsay Harrison, and she did a great job. You know, she was talking a lot about psychics and the history of who they were. You know, everyone from Edgar Cayce, who did over 14,309 accurate medical predictions. You know, she references Blavatsky and other people who were your original psychics and remote viewers. We know there's lots of them in history. Maria Orsic. We've had remote viewers. You know, you and I have talked before about the likes of, you know, the remote viewing stuff that's been done with Hal Puthoff and Uri Geller and all those sort of folks. But where this book really starts to take off is when Sylvia lays out a timeline starting at page 101, and she gets going towards the end of the book, and she just keeps making these predictions all the way through, right to the end, from the year 2004 all the way up to, I think it's 2100.
Okay, Johnny, I need you to back up from your mic. You just got really hot. Just back up an inch or two, but continue.
Okay, so she gets in on that. Now, I just want to say this before we get into the book here, Jimmy, is that, you know, when Sylvia was going on Montel in her latter days, do you remember when she used to go on Montel?
She was one of the, if not the most famous psychic in the country. I think we all followed her. Certainly I did.
Yeah, most certainly. She was on Montel. She went on Larry King. She became absolutely prolific. But there came a period when she was doing these readings all the time that she would just dish out these readings. And then after a while, you know, people would start to say, well, I don't know. Maybe she's just kind of mass producing them after a while in the latter part of her career. But, you know, I've worked with psychics for years. I've worked with some incredible remote viewers, including, as I've mentioned on your show before, Patricia Mona, who does all these police investigations. She solved over 27 of them, found missing bodies. She now does psychic archaeology stuff with us, which is amazing. But, you know, sometimes psychics, they see things a little differently. They make these predictions. Now, as you get into this book, we got to remember that this is the forefront of our sciences right now. This is where we're headed right now. There's a whole incredible idea that we can look in the past, present, and future. And the idea that, before we get going with this, Jimmy, with the fate or nots, is that reality is nonlinear. Would you agree with that? That our brain just creates the illusion that it's linear.
Right. Yes.
Okay, so, you know, I have a friend, and I just like to share this before we dive into the first prediction here that I think will be the biggest one to start diving in with. I have a friend of mine who's been involved on the military side of science, and he told me something that happened over 30 years ago that was a classified technology that relates to this. And he said he was able to tell me about it because enough time has passed. He was stationed around over 30 years ago over in Jakarta, which is in Indonesia, if anyone's ever been out there. And he said they were experimenting with a type of photography. And I because I was asking him, I said, have you guys ever had like psychic technology? You know, we've heard people talking about Project Looking Glass and all this kind of stuff before, which I know you've covered. And he was telling me, he said, Johnny, he said, we absolutely did stumble on something like that that was classified. He said we were using ASI lighting, and he said it was somewhere between 100 million and 300 million watts, something crazy like that. He said it used a lightning bolt condensed ballistic flash. And he said when they used this, it was able to look into non-linear layers of reality, and they were able to like capture things maybe hundreds or thousands of years ago and see people that were not from that time period, different buildings and structures, and it was essentially able to capture scenes that weren't from that point. Now, have you ever looked into those ideas, like let's say with a Philadelphia experiment?
Well, I mean, I've researched as much of this as I can, and I'm fascinated with it. But it's the science side of it and the physics side, for me, that is starting to confirm a lot of these theories about psychic abilities when we talk about what time is, the past, present, and future, and the difference between the past, the present, and the future, and how we can observe and measure it. And so, yeah, getting out of the linear part of it is what physics is starting to do now. So when we jump into these concepts of parallel worlds, the multiverse, and entanglement, and we look at all of this, when we see an alternative view of us, either from the past or the future, Philip K. Dick did this really well in The Man of the High Castle. That's a perfect example of it. We have to stop and think about what is actually going on here. So, yeah, I absolutely believe that there is something to it.
Absolutely. I mean, I was told, and I've been told this before, I mean, when we start looking at who we are and looking at these types of energies, that it takes very little energy, let's say, for example, to change the atoms in your body. If we change the vibration of those atoms, and if we change those and they're not relative to the ground below you, you'll sink right into the ground. At the same time, we start playing with that and spatial momentum. I mean, we can start getting into anti-gravity or having you float above the floor or coming out of walls. So there's all kinds of ways now that we're bridging these gaps in our physics, as you pointed out, and we're getting to understand that. So with that being said, now that we have that caveat out of the way, Sylvia Brown, like many people out there, she's looking into the psychic looking glass, and she's getting this vision of these messages, and she's subjectively interpreting it for us. We could say that maybe a lot of it has come true, will come true. Maybe some of it will change. We know that every second, Jimmy, that universes are dying and they're being reborn. We're impregnating reality with our thoughts. So let's dive right in. Page 214. I figured this is the best one. Let's get it out of the way so everybody listening can understand what we're talking about. Sylvia Browne says on page 214, by 2020, we'll see more people than ever wearing surgical masks and rubber gloves in public, inspired by an outbreak of a severe pneumonia-like illness that attacks both the lungs and the bronchial tubes and is ruthlessly resistant to treatment. This illness will be particularly baffling in that, after causing a winter of absolute panic, it will seem to vanish completely until 10 years later, making both its source and its cure that much more mysterious. Now, what do you make of that?
It's right. It can't be any more clear. Literally, by 2020, it's right there. It's right there on page 214. And when you read something like this, if you go back to Nostradamus, and I've read all the, not all, but a lot of the translations of Nostradamus, and I read those, and it could apply to my dog. It could apply to a world leader. It could apply to my shoes underneath my bed. It doesn't matter. Anything can be interpreted in any number of ways. That you don't have to interpret, right? It's just right there.
I know, it's crazy. And we haven't even scratched the surface. She says, just getting these out of the way. We'll go back all the way to 2004 and show where she's been right. I mean, we'll get there. But she says, just to get these out of the way, she says on pages 157 and 159 that in the year 2020, she was very specific. In the year 2020, that's when our educational system is going to change. Kids are going to be going onto their computers to do their learning. The schools are going to be empty all of a sudden. She says that at 159. She describes that there is going to be kind of a mix-up. Things are going to go crazy because, as she'll allude to, we'll get to after, she alludes to what's going to happen politically leading up to this election and all the stuff we're seeing with what we just discussed. She says that there is this economic disruption for a little while on page 141, that in the year 2020, people start to move into even a barter system. And we're starting to see that. I don't know if you see this in California, but I'm talking to people in all kinds of states, and they're starting to go back to trading chickens for, produce and vice versa.
Now, everybody is asking about the book. The book, again, I've showed it on camera now a half a dozen times. It's called Sylvia Brown, Prophecy, What the Future Holds for You. Okay, I guess it was published in 2004. The copy that I have is from 2005. That's the book, and it's right there on jimmychurchradio.com. You can look and with the description of the show tonight, it's right there. Prophecy, What the Future Holds for You. Now, going back to her point here about education, which I read this section of the book too as well. This is the thing. I don't think anybody in the United States thought that schools would be shut down for a year and reshaped the way that they are now, from preschool all the way through colleges. Absolutely fundamental changes in our educational system. I don't know. And this goes from curriculum and how it's delivered to how schools are attended and how our students and our children are looking at what school is. It's clearly not even close to what I went to school, what I experienced. It absolutely changed overnight. I don't know if it will ever be the same. I just don't know. I can't see it coming back to what it was. Now, when students go back to school, are each desk going to be enclosed in plexiglass like we see at the checkout lines, right? At stores today? Every student in a face mask, every teacher in a face mask, and the social distancing that has to take place. Look, we all know, Johnny, that schools are where you go to catch a cold. That's where you go.
That's
right?
where you go.
Everybody's infected. Everybody's got to. One student gets the whole school gets sick, and the next thing you know, your child's got a cold and a runny nose, and now you've got it. All happens in school. Well, now you throw coronavirus into the mix. You throw COVID-19 into the mix, and schools are. That's a different scenario altogether, and we have to have our kids in school. We have to have that. So how is it going to change? Look, this is the other part. And Sylvia talks about the requirements and things in school, right? She specifically points it out in the book. And I apply that to the way school is today. Well, leading up to the pandemic, we had too many students in each class and not enough teachers. How is this going to be overcome? Now, moving forward, we have a requirement of half of the students are now in a class where we don't have 40 students. Now we have 15 or 20, with this separation, where are the teachers going to come from? We have double the problem. Where are the extra schools going to come from? Where are the extra classrooms going to come from? These are fundamental issues that need to get worked out and worked out now. Sylvia talks about it in this book from 2005. And nobody saw this coming except Sylvia Browne.
It's amazing to see how much she actually gets right. She says with the economic stuff, and Jimmy, I am absolutely an optimist, and I want to say as we continue to go forward, Sylvia does say that the changes that we're going through now will ultimately be positive changes, even as we go through what she talks about to be the big political disruption that she lays out very clearly in 2020. But she does say on page 141 that due to the economic changes in 2020 that we'll see by the end of this year, that she says that essentially they will do away with mutual funds, pensions, and retirement plans. But that's not new. We've been hearing about this nonstop, and the trend around the world now is those things are moving away over into something called UBI, or Universal Basic Income, and benefits that are coming out of there, which is very strange that she foresaw all this chaos. But you said, Jimmy, that when you were looking through this stuff that stunned you. What did you think when you got to the political stuff? Did you get to what she said on page 133, politics-wise?
We're going to get to that after the break. And I do want to point out, I got to take a break here in about 30 seconds, that, yes, again, this is on page 141, but you see 2020, printed a few times on this page. And the changes, this is the thing when we're talking about the economy. Again, nobody would have predicted that the year 2020, that the entire world would collapse and how things would change in the future. And she points out specifically here the communication about Asia and the world economy and the United States. It just sticks out, and you see it. And it's her comments. You need to get the book, but it's right there, 2020. Let's take our break. Johnny, when we come back, we'll jump into the politics. And the politics that is discussed in the book is a real eye-opener, because nobody would have thought about the political environment that we are finding ourselves in today. Not only in the world, but not in the United States. Sylvia Browne put pen to paper and put it in a book. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Jonny Enoch when we come back after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
Including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jonny Enoch is here. We are talking about Sylvia Browne's 2004-2005 book. It is called Prophecy, What the Future Holds for You. I've got a copy of one of the original printings here in the studio. And Jonny, she says on page 136, I want to talk about this first. And she mentions, again, this is a direct quote from the book. In the center, it's a new structure of government on page 136. And she says by 2020, right? It's right. That's how she starts the paragraph off, that we're going to start to see a new structure of government. Now, this is a bold prediction, a bold prophecy, if you will, a bold prediction. But 2020 is going to be, there's no question about it, one of the most remarkable years for the United States and government and what is going on. I just watched the first hour of the debate tonight, not to talk about politics, but you see something like that going down on TV, and you're reading this book, and you're thinking to yourself, the United States could never go through this. We would never think that this was possible to be in the position that we are right now in Washington, D.C. What does she say on page 136 about a new structure of government?
Well, the whole chapter is all about that. I mean, she not only says it's a new structure of government, but on 135, Jimmy, leading up into 136, she says, by about 2020, she says. That's how she opens it up, just like on the other page. She says, we'll see the end of the one-man presidency and the costly, seemingly perpetual cycle of presidential campaigns and elections. So essentially, she tells us that Trump is essentially, as we're moving into this area, the last elected president in U.S. history. And she said, going into this, she actually says, this gave me chills when I read this. When I think back to her at a typewriter in 2004 writing this, she says literally on page 133, until around the year 2020, the political structure in the United States will remain as it is now. It will just be Democrats, Republicans, the Independent Party, and various other splinter groups. And she tells us that in 2020, this starts to change. Not only does she say that, but on page 134, the next page, she talks about a conspiracy and strange events that go on that help to fan the flames of, like, basically division due to not only the media, but she links it to problems within every area of structure and intelligence agencies which if you had to describe 2020 to someone, if we had to go describe it from someone, let's say 10 years ago, would this not be the description that we give, that there is this absolute chaos? And you're right. I mean, who would have thought all those years ago we would be this this much craziness going on, you know?
Well, and because of the way she points it out, when you go and you look, it's not really coincidence, right? This isn't a Nostradamus thing where you have to interpret in any way that you want to or feel that you can apply it. She's speaking very specifically about things. And we turn around and we look at what we went through, not only in 2020, but leading up to it, 2019, 2018, 2019. And you look at the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, the Department of Justice, the geopolitics and the issues that have been going on, stemming out of Washington, D.C. to world relationships. And you can bring Putin in, you can bring China in to the conversation. It's the way that she points it out in there where you would think that no way, there couldn't be this much chaos going on. Well, then you specifically look at 2019 and 2020, it has been nothing but chaos on every level, every branch of government. And that right now in 2020, when we look at the CDC and the healthcare system and of course the pandemic and the issues that all of this has caused and the dissension amongst the troops in all of these various federal agencies. It's absolutely incredible.
It is. Now, it is absolutely incredible. She does say that what we're going to go through right now, it's going to be truculent. It's going to be strange, but she said it's going to go into something more positive in the future. She said what we're going to evolve into is like a Roman Senate. She says after this year, due to all the division, we're going to have this equal representatives, you know, like a divided kind of a council. Instead of having it just all on one person with a vice president, it will be very interesting to see that unfold as she says it will, you know?
Well, is it possible, getting away from Sylvia for a second, because she plainly points this out in the book as a possibility from 2020 moving forward, but these changes have happened in various countries around the world over centuries, where you've seen a change in power, a change in structure, a change in ways of doing things. Things, you know, the world is not run by monarchies anymore or by feudal lords, if you will, right? Things have evolved and changed. And is it possible that the United States and other countries, you know, you never would have thought that the Soviet Union would have come apart, but it did. It was a structure that was in place, and it just seemed like it was strong and solid. It came apart. Rome came apart, right? France, Spain, the United Kingdom, and the ways of doing things. It has all been taken apart. Imperialism, right? And we would have never thought that 50 years ago, that today, the changes that we have right now in 2020, it would have never have been a possibility. Would it
I agree with you. I agree with you. But I'm going to go out on a limb here, Jimmy. Let's entertain an idea that's going to be a little far out there for some people. Okay. And I just want to get your thoughts on this and your ideas. Okay. So as we go through this book today, there's just so much stuff that absolutely hits home. And we haven't even begun to go down the list. And as it starts to lay out so perfectly in that pattern that, as you say, it sort of mimics other systems that have been there before. Now, if we go back to famous prophets that have been here before, they all had their connections to being taken up, you know, whether you're talking about Enoch or Elijah in the Bible, that they all had some kind of communication they were getting. Even Moses, the story of Moses, when he came down from the mountain of Sinai with the 10 commandments that were given to him by the fiery finger of God, you know, he saw this cigar-shaped pillar, a pillar of fire that was kind of like something that was giving him this. Now, I was out for dinner the other night with Jay Widener. We were over in Boulder, and talk about a place that's divided in some areas. Boulder is it's very hippie like, as you know, and for the most part, people are very laid back. But there's this one crosswalk over in Pearl Street where one side of the street you see one political opinion that's just furious with the other furious political opinion, and it was like this direct competing voices and how things are changing. Well, when I was out there with him, we went out for dinner. He said to me, after in our subsequent talks about Sylvia Brown, we brought it up. And he said to me, Johnny, I'm going to put this towards the conversation. He goes, I know this is going to sound crazy, but he goes, someone has to ask this. He goes, someone out there is going to put this out there. Is it possible that, Sylvia Brown was getting the information from somewhere that may be a little bit more organized? Like some might be saying, hey, is it possible she gets it from, they're going to say the cabal or something? Is it possible that maybe she's getting this information like what Wired magazine described as the voice of God technology that can put things in your head? Mm-hmm. Is it possible that extraterrestrials are giving it to her to lay out a very organized agenda? It's not just regular psychic intuitions and ideas like that. Do you think that's plausible, that that's what we could be seeing here?
Yeah, see, I was talking about time travel at the beginning of the show tonight, and I had very strange, direct daydreams when I was very, very young, and I didn't understand them, but it was always of me in a studio doing a talk radio show, talking into a microphone, just what I'm doing right now. And I didn't understand it. And I wanted to do other things with my life. But the point is very simple. I had a vision of me in the future that was correct. I didn't understand it. I lived my life. I played guitar. I got into art and was an artist, and I did all of these other things but talk radio, right? I didn't do that till much later in my life. And it didn't make sense to me. I just followed my dreams, and I did what I wanted to do. But here I am tonight doing a talk radio show and an interview with you as my guest. This is what I saw when I was 5 years old. How can you explain that? Now, was it a future version of me whispering in my ear when I was 5 years old, telling me what I was going to ultimately do with my life? I don't know. And as crazy as that sounds, I don't have any explanations for it. I'm certainly not suggesting that. But when we come to something like Sylvia Brown and something this accurate, where is it coming from? It doesn't seem like she was looking into a scrying mirror and coming up with other things. No, this is much more direct. It's much more black and white. And
I totally
don't know. I can't explain it, man. Time traveler? Did she have a connection? Was she, in communication with somebody that had a look at the future, somebody that experienced the future, somebody that lived in the future? I don't know. Is it a possibility?
She does allude to that, Jimmy. She calls them mystic travelers, and she's mentioned that in this book and before. So it is plausible. Maybe one of these visitors filled her in.
I'm okay with that. And the reason why I'm okay with that is there's a few things that we can't explain today. And one of them is deja vu. Can't explain deja vu. Can't explain it. And you know it when it's going down. Oh, man, I knew this conversation was going to happen. It's happening right now, and it's word for word. This is weird. Well, how does that happen? How somebody explain to me how that goes down. And there are some out there that have the ability to take this to the next level and to understand when this is happening and to write it down. Sylvia Brown does that. I don't have another way of looking at it. I really don't. We know that Einstein clearly laid out in general and special relativity that time travel to the future is a reality. It's not possible. It's just it's real, and we can do it just by living. We can time travel into the future. It's by nanoseconds, but it happens when you fly on an airplane, for instance. Astronauts on the ISS are time travelers. These are time travelers. You take it to the extreme, then you are traveling real distances in time. The question is a time traveler coming back and communicating in their own way with people on this planet like Sylvia Browne? Yes, absolutely. Physics says it's a possibility.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, here's the thing, Jimmy. This is where it started to get me. Honestly, I was looking for there to be holes in this stuff because, again, you and I have both talked to psychics. We know how they work, that they see possibilities. And the great thing about discussing different possibilities with a good psychic is they can tell you that you can alter your course of action or the future, and you can start to maybe change your responses so that you can, get back on course. Now, if we go back into these years, she's making these original predictions in the year 2004. So everybody, please keep that in mind as I go through the following timeline with you, Jimmy. This starts back. She starts saying stuff like, by 2007, she said, yeah, you're going to have cell phones with video conferencing and whatnot on them. This is on page, I believe it's 173 for tech. She goes,
Hey, wait a minute. 30 seconds ago, I held that page up to the camera. Everybody just saw me do it.
I love it. We're connected, man. You and I, we don't have any notes or anything. We're just winging this.
Nope. I literally, you know what? I want everybody in Twitter that saw me do that go, yep, it happened 30 seconds ago.
Let's see it. Everybody, come on, get on there and start tweeting. Let's cause a Twitter storm. Let's get these out there to everybody.
That was pretty bizarre. Yeah, let's talk tech.
Okay, let's talk tech. Let's see how much she gets right, because it's mind-blowing what she says. She says by 2010, she says you're going to be watching TV and videos like YouTube on your phone, because I guess back in 2004, if I think back to the phones we had, just after that whole Y2K period, we weren't playing with very great phones. You'd be lucky if you were doing Pong on your phone. So she says by 2008, you're going to have watches. She says you're going to have watches that are going to be very kind of clunky and primitive at first, but they're going to be like cell phone watches that have a camera on them. Well, remember, Samsung started rolling these out. She says right after these cell phone watches start rolling out, she says they're going to get more elegant over time. Well, look at the Apple Watch. Look what we got in those particular areas. She says by 2012, you're going to start to see sunglasses, music, being able to play through them. Like you've seen that now. They're talking about the eyeglasses or the Apple glasses. The Google wanted to put those out even sooner, but there was privacy concerns, right?
Right.
Did you see what she said? This was crazy. She starts bringing it up and she starts describing voice command hooked up to your computer, like an AI voice command system. It'll take about 600 to 700 different commands. She basically lays it out for Alexa and Siri, 100%.
100%. And the smartwatch, the smartphone, the iPhone, all of that came after this book was published. People need to understand the timeline that we're talking about here. And the iPhone, being the smartphone that it was at that time, revolutionized everything. But what came after that, right? The ability to and technology had to catch up to the iPhones. YouTube didn't happen until 2008. I know we think that it's been around forever. That was a 2008 situation. This book was written in 2005. Streaming video on the phone didn't happen till much later. But she points it out in the book that it's part of our, but none of us saw that coming. We just didn't. We didn't. Phone cameras and things, nobody bothered with taking a picture because the resolution was crap. You just didn't do it. I've got pictures on phones that are in drawers that I don't even go back and access because the pictures are so bad. So I don't care about them. The technology didn't catch up till much later, and she points out all of it in the book, where we didn't dream about streaming a movie in high def on a cell phone. Come on, man. No.
I know. I know, it's crazy. You know what this reminds me of, Jimmy? If you go back to the story of Mother Shipton's prophecies, and she was out of like Yorkshire, England. Some British historian friends of mine have told me that when Mother Shipton's prophecies first came out, we're talking forever ago, at the time of witch trials, that her prophecies came out, that when she came out, she said something like, when men's thoughts shall fly like the twinkling of an eye. Around the world, men's thoughts shall fly like the twinkling of an eye. She was basically describing like cell phone or phones, email, communication. She described horseless carriages, basically like cars. I was told that when these first came out, that they were considered to be so strange that they became like a national security situation, and they had to be moved over to a library in Wales. And so when you see this kind of stuff here, Sylvia is our modern version of that. This has been going on for a long time. We've been getting predictions like this about new tech and changes with people like this. Now, she also says in here, Jimmy, that she says some very, very interesting stuff. She says around 2012 that we're going to develop the ability to look for voice stress tests, for looking at lie detector tests when someone's talking, and that's going to become more common in the 2020s. She alludes to this fact that in the year 2020, she lays it out in a book, and her crime, technology, and forensics areas that she breaks down, that we're going to move into this area of looking at the voice and all of the parts of our bodies as biometrics. Well, have you talked to anybody that's now applied for a citizenship somewhere in the year 2020? You have to submit all your biometrics, right?
Yep, you've got to do it. And going back to staying on this point, but you brought up something earlier, that when we talk about Alexa and Siri and smart homes, smart cars, smart everything, voice commands, what happens not only with your cell phone and your computers, but your homes. For her to mention this, nobody talked about this or thought about this in 2005. No. And for her to be so direct about it, today it's a modern thing. Do you remember clap on, clap off, right?
The sure clapper. Do, yeah.
That was high tech. That's as far as we took it, man. It wasn't about walking into the house and having your refrigerator tell you what you need to order because you're off schedule with your lettuce or your celery or your cheese or your milk, let alone temperature and cameras and the ability to order movies and order food, order takeout, have conversations, get the weather, all of this just walking through your home. No, we were not at this point in 2005. We weren't even close to it. Just a profound section of the book.
It is. It's absolutely amazing. She literally goes into here it says in page 170 at the bottom, automatic dialing will be stored in your computers or wherever, and you'll just say, call Lindsay when you're putting away your groceries or feeding your dogs, and it will do it. She later goes on to say that they will take about 600 or 700 voice commands. I mean, it's incredible back in 2004 that she's literally laying this out and telling us what's going to happen. And the amazing thing about this is she just doesn't do it with technology, but she does it with medicine. She does it with trends. She even does it with dieting and nutrition. She breaks down all of the years of when you're going to go through these trends from the United States or around the world, when you're going to see crummy diets and oversized meals, to the trends changing over to, fast food places going into like healthier options, as we saw with salads, to this being implemented into the school systems with nutritional areas. I mean, it's amazing how she's broken down every aspect of society. But she also goes forward, as you know, she says that not only will that voice detection be used in crime solving, and she says that we'll be moving into that, by 2025, that if somebody's committed a crime or it's on a surveillance camera, that you'll be able to identify anybody's voice, and that's going to be used in forensics with policing. But she moves forward, and she says by the year 2040, she moves forward with the technology. It's going to be very common, she says, to have a 3-story house, and on top of your house, that's where your hovercraft comes in and out of. Did you see China just a couple days ago? They now have these hovercraft flying cars that they're releasing.
Well, yeah, and China is definitely at the front of this. So I think Dubai is now officially has flying taxis. Right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. When I come back, I'm going to change gears a little bit, but I want to stay on Sylvia Browne. Did she mention, when she talks about the virus and the pandemic in 2020, does she mention China or anything specific?
It's interesting. She does talk about the Asian governments and the changes that are going to come from that. But let's dig into that when you come back.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Jonny Enoch. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We are talking about this book that was published in 2004. I have the 2005 version, Prophecy, What the Future Holds for You by Sylvia Browne. We'll be right back.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend. Let's face it, you've always wanted to do a sky watch and see your first UFO. Today, it's easy. Just get your own HP7 3B Cobalt Jimmy Church Edition night vision goggles from Hoffman's Optics. This is the same U.S. military system that I use, featuring a Generation 3 blue phosphor image tube. That's right, it's blue, not black and green. This is the only blue system in the world, and it's waterproof, lightweight, combat-proof, simple to use, and ready to go. Hoffman's Optics help create night vision sky watches, and now you can see what everyone has been talking about each night from your own backyard. Just call 760-231-9929. That's 760-231-9929. You can click on the banners on our site or visit UFONightVisionGoggles.com. That's UFONightVisionGoggles.com. Go back, Lee Tepe.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jonny Enoch is here. And we are talking about the 2004-2005 book published by Sylvia Brown. It's called Prophecy, What the Future Holds for You. And I started to, excuse me, Johnny, right before the break, ask if she mentioned China. We go back to like Dean Koontz and some of these things that have been out there on the internet this year about the mention of the pandemic and coronavirus years ago, and were they predicting the future? She certainly lays it out in the book very clearly about what 2020 was going to be, and face mask and this flu-like. It's crazy for her to mention it would be in the lungs and the bronchial tubes. Fascinating, because that's exactly what coronavirus and COVID is. But did she mention the source of this virus, pointing back to China or Asia?
Well, she said that the virus would be revealed, when it just sort of mysteriously sort of goes away after the year that we go through it, especially after a spike of being concerned about it in the wintertime. She says it sort of mysteriously goes away, and then 10 years later, we find an even more mysterious cause and reason for it being around. So
could that be that it wasn't China, right? And that it was a weapons lab here in the United States? That's or whatever. I'm just speculating here.
I hear you. Now here's the interesting thing. She does make connections to the Orient and to Asia. Like, if going back into the political spectrum for a while about this, it's very interesting, because if we want to bring it back into that part of the world, she starts to bring up these sort of tensions and connections. So very interestingly, on page 142, Jimmy, if you go to the top of page 142, she says that even when we restructure our Senate, so after the presidential system disappears, she says we're going to go to this split kind of a Senate where, when you have somebody serve their term, instead of 4 years, they're only going to serve 3 years. She says that when the United States one first gets restructured in the early 2020s, it won't hold a candle to the rigid governmental control in Europe or Asia and Africa. So she brings up the government in Asia being a little stricter and tighter and more organized. However, notice what she says after that. She talks about how in the 2020s that Australia is going to close their borders because they're going to become one of the most sought after places on earth to live in. So she actually says that they will have to close their borders for a short period of time in 2020, right there. Another prediction. Absolutely amazing that she would say that about Australia back in 2004. Now, there is a prediction in this chapter that we skipped over. It's a strange prediction, and I don't wish this upon anybody because I most certainly always wish for peace and protection and longevity for everyone, especially those in any position of public office. But she said on page 133 on this exact same chapter we're talking about, that a president elected sometime after 2008, and it's important that we look at the context of this, because she says in her other book, her End of Days book, which I don't think is as good as this book. It's not as full of the same caliber of predictions. She says in the End of Days book, the exact same wording here. She says somebody who's elected after 2008 to somewhere around 2020, that this person is elected into office and then they have a heart attack when they're in office and they die. And when they have this heart attack, what happens is that a vice president takes over, and this vice president, she says, will try to cause a war with North Korea. And it's not very favorable at the time when they try to do this. Now, this could be an alternative timeline. Who knows? Maybe it wouldn't happen. But you and I both know in those situations that, there are groups out there that can induce things like heart attacks. It's a horrible reality, but they can be artificially induced out there. But she does bring up those parts of the world. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, and again, that could play out in so many ways. I don't think that in 2005 anybody knew what North Korea was going to turn into, especially over the last 4 years.
Yes,
and teetering on the edge of, especially when those long-range missiles were being fired, we were looking at, there were a couple of moments where I thought, okay, well, this is it. This is it. Thankfully, it didn't happen, but nobody knew. There's another part. She spends about 30 pages in the book talking about mental health and the degradation of mental health. And again, when I read through that part of the book, I just kept going back to the state of the divisiveness of where we are, not only in the United States, but around the world. But she could not have predicted in 2004 what social media was going to do and how it would influence just about everybody on the planet and where we are now. People are emotionally freaked out, and it's because of the pandemic. It's because of the election. It's because of the economy. It's because of our education system and healthcare and what the future holds and how we're going to try to. People are freaked out right now, emotionally torn apart. And she talks about this in the book, and it's mind-blowing because, and the reason why I bring this up so directly, Johnny, is that leading up to 2016, 2017, certainly 2020 with the pandemic, that the United States was the essence of stability. Right? That Americans, we're just solid. We're together, and we just build this country and the foundations and move forward because we are united, and that's what this and here we are in 2020, just absolutely frayed and coming apart. Right? It's like the thread has been pulled, and we can't stop it now. it's exactly what she talks about in this book, and nobody would have predicted this to actually come true, because that's where we find ourselves here at the end of September in 2020, just unglued.
Absolutely, and it's absolutely crazy. I mean, there's so many other great areas that we can go jump into next, but before we're off the subject of health, I mean, she says some amazing stuff about where we're going to go health-wise. She says, first of all, on page 203, she says that in the year 2020, we're going to have this ability to start repairing, hearing and vision. She literally describes the technology we got this year of being able to put an implant by where the optic nerve is and be able to restore vision through technological means. We literally just got that. And she says that in there. I was amazed. I couldn't believe that. Jimmy, on page 206, she says by the year 2025, it's going to be very commonplace for people just to back up their cells in their bodies. So no more long lists for waiting for organ replacements. You'll just, if you want a liver or kidney, when you're younger, you already backed up your cells, so you can just, have them cloned right away, right?
Yeah, and she also mentions, I don't know what page it is. I'd have to flip back, but I read this very interesting section about medical data and implants, and the ability for, I can't remember her exact words, but something like ambulances, vehicles would automatically, the vehicles, and I think she was referring to ambulances, maybe she said ambulances directly, but all of your medical data would be tracked, and the vehicles could be followed, and all of your information would be instantaneous. Certainly, spot on the money. I want to go back. She, can we talk about ET, extraterrestrials?
That's the one I was going to say we should jump to next. You read my mind.
Right, and I have it right here. I'll let you talk about it, but the title of this section of the book is How Extraterrestrials Get Here.
That is incredible. It's just incredible. She does this, basically lays out the ET stuff for us. Now, if you go to, I think it's page 127 here, she says by the end of the 2020s, we're going to have an accord with the ETs. Now, we're seeing that right now, as you know. I mean, they're drip dropping disclosure.
Right.
We're going to have James Webb online with the telescope, where we got all these private companies. We got Bezos. We got Elon Musk. We're going out into space. We're exploring. We're the new discoverers. We're making these bridges. And, I believe that we are getting towards that point. I mean, 2020 would be too crazy for ETs to land on the White House steps. It's just too nuts out there. But I do believe we're not far off from bridging that, right?
How does she say ETs get here?
Well, I mean, for her, she lays it out. She has the mystic travelers idea that she talks about, but she essentially tells us they've been coming here a very long time. And she's been very adamant on that ETs are walking amongst us already. They're here. They're coming a number of different ways that they've been traveling back and forth. She tells us, though, as far as how they're getting here, Jimmy, and how, as far as the technology they're going to give us to be like them, that she says by the 2030s, ETs are out of the closet on Earth. She says on going into page 127 onward there, she said that we're going to get help from them, basically to start going out into space. By the 2040s, Sylvia says the ETs will have helped us with moon bases and what we're doing. She says by the year 2060, ET ships are coming and going on Earth like an airport. It's no big deal. And she says by 2080 that it's kind of like everywhere you look on Earth, we've discovered all that, and everywhere you go out in space, we've already had technology that's done reconnaissance missions all over the place, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting section of the book. I want to move on for a second. Everybody, you can go to Amazon. The book is called Prophecy, What the Future Holds for You. It's by Sylvia Brown. I don't know if you can get an electronic version, if there's versions of it available for free. I don't know. I just went straight to Amazon and purchased this, and I was surprised that I could get the 2005 edition in such great condition. Wasn't expensive either, but it's a page turner. It's a page turner. And today, Johnny, what I find so strange, and look, this is a reality that we're all talking about. I talk about it too much on this show. But that is, nobody thought that we would be where we are today. Nobody saw this pandemic coming. Nobody saw the world economy crashing. No matter who tells you that the economy is coming back and it's bouncing, no. Disneyland announced today, they're laying off 28,000 employees. The airline industry, the travel industry, movie theaters, restaurants, on and on and on. The trickle down. This is a bad position that we find ourselves in, and it's going to take years of rebuilding and digging out. Nobody saw this coming, and to have Sylvia point this out so directly in the book it's freaky. It's freakish. So yeah, go and read it. And there is also there's a part to this where Sylvia, this isn't a dark book. It's not a dark book. She says the future is bright. To find where we are in 2020, where she's repeatedly says these changes are going to happen in 2020. Well, she's right about that. It's what we do with this experience and what we are going through now to affect change for the future generations and what this planet will mean to us starting next year in 2021. And that's what she directly addresses throughout this book.
Oh, she absolutely does, Jimmy. And you know what's crazy? As you go further into the book, she talks about changes that we're going to go under, that we're going to undergo. She says, first of all, she starts talking about how we're going to be living longer. There's going to be the elimination of cancer and a lot of diseases. You know, we're going to get to a point where our lifespan's going to go up, 130, 140 years or more. That's going to be normal. That she also alludes to something that a lot of people have been seeing now, that whether it's the chemicals that we're taking in or some blame it on the environment. There's a lot of different ideas about this, but high amounts of mass infertility. She says that there's going to be more and more people having to go to sort of preconception kind of clinics in the future, designer babies, all that. It's sort of like what we hear about with the Greys. The Greys have to reproduce in that sort of way for the extraterrestrials. She says that by the year 2040, humanity is going to discover something in New Zealand. There's going to be a strange compound that we're going to find. And it's going to sound something like chumunga, she said, and it's going to speed up our brains and the way we process information so that we're going to become very advanced and very, very, very quick thinkers and mass amounts of innovation and technology, and things are just going to flood through us. So that will be very interesting if we do make that discovery.
Now, is there another Sylvia Browne out there right now walking around?
I think each and every single one of us could be a Sylvia Browne in our own way.
How is it something that, and I talked about this earlier with myself, right? I'm not a psychic. I don't claim to see the future or anything, but I've had strange things happen where I'm wondering if I could exercise, right? If there is something I can do, a process to improve, right? Is this possible?
Well, here's the thing. I don't mean to give a shameless plug because I was going to do that later towards the end of the end of the show, but with that tour that we're doing to Egypt, the return of the Kepler cycle, and everyone's invited. We have with us, some great folks coming with us, but one of them is Patricia Mona, and she's an incredible remote viewer, psychic. She discovers all sorts of missing people. She's giving, with the people that sign up, she's giving them free online classes in remote viewing and psychic abilities. So everyone has this capability. We can tune into it. We can get more out of it. But it's amazing, Jimmy, as you know, people that go into these remote viewing workshops, even when they were doing the stuff with the Project Stargate and all the original Hal Puthoff stuff, the top military guys that were coming into it, they were amazed that they could do remote viewing. They just looked at a photograph and things would come to them. They couldn't explain how it worked, right?
Have you tried it?
I have, man. And much like you, I've had incredible stuff come to me. I've had stuff when I'm working on a project, and I know you get this. You and I have discussed some things you've seen before and things that even have affected you and your art and the work you've done. I've had things I'm doing, and all of a sudden an answer will come to me, and I don't know where it comes from. And it's just like a pattern of 10 things that will come to me, and people will give me stuff. And then if for some reason it was what I was supposed to be doing. I really believe we all have these capabilities. And eventually, Jimmy, I believe that our technology is going to bridge these gaps also.
How's that?
Well, as you and I were just discussing before we got into this, if we have photography that can tap into this, if we have abilities to look into this field of information using quantum computing, eventually we're going to know everything in all directions before it happens or has happened. And I do believe that our technology, as you and I are seeing it now, is becoming more spiritual. The universe is our computer, right?
Well, what do you mean photography? Taking pictures of the future? Well, I mean...
Yeah, well, remember at the beginning when we were talking, I was telling you about this classified technology I was told about. They used an ASI flash of sending 100 to 300 million watts through a lightning bolt condensed ballistic flash, and how this photography was non-linear photography. Depending on how they would tweak it, they could basically peel back various layers to see different areas of time and reality that they could photograph.
We need to take this a step further. I need to wrap my mind around this. What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that there has been, and there are classified technologies that have existed that have the ability to go into nonlinear reality. This is very similar to the experiments we've seen even with nanoparticles. We know that there's other sorts of technology that's similar to that, where they've injected these little silicon hexagonal little graphene implants. They put them into the lungs of those folks in the military so they could go underwater without having to breathe for an hour. We know they put these nanoparticles in the eyeballs of rats, where they've looked at them being able to give them night vision. We now know they've moved up to the infrared. So imagine what kind of multi-dimensional beings in the dimensional ecology, Jimmy, that you could see if you had infrared vision. We're moving into that area where our technology is becoming like magic.
What were the glasses called? And I think they used them at the Vatican, where they could see the past and see the future. What were the...
I know what you're talking about. And most certainly, I've even seen cell phone apps that advertise to do that. Little apps that you can advertise.
No. This was somebody popped this up in Twitter really quick. I'm just brain freezing. There were books written on this. The glasses, they would look to the future and to the past. What was the name of those glasses?
I want a pair. Get me a pair.
Oh, man. I believe it was in possession of the Vatican. Somebody help me out. It'll pop up here in Twitter. There's a 20-second delay on the audio.
Let's get Danny Sheehan on the line. He'll know. He hangs out there.
He'll know.
He hangs out there. But here's the thing. Okay, getting back to Sylvia Browne, getting back to her for a moment. She starts to talk about the craziest stuff, getting into even the period where we are right now within our weather, within this time period that we have with asteroids and meteor showers. If you go to page 116, the great news is, she says in here, Jimmy, and I was so relieved to hear this, because California, where you live, and I know you live in Burbank, which is one of my absolute favorite places in California. She says that California, which again is one of my favorite places, she says is not going to crumble into the Pacific along the San Andreas Fault. And she says there is going to be ongoing erosion, as there always has been. But she also says that Nevada is also going to be safe. However, she does predict underground eruptions and other earthquakes in the mid-2020s. But she said there's never going to be a time when Central California or Nevada is beachfront property.
I could have predicted that. Okay, now check this out. Okay, and that's interesting. It was called the chronovisor. The chronovisor.
Oh, the chronovisor.
Yeah. A time viewer described by Father Francois Brune in his 2002 book, Le Nouveau Mystère du Vatican, the Vatican's New Mystery. And there you go. So much, let's see here. What was his name? That's right. Pellegrino Ernetti. 1925, 1994, an Italian priest and scientist. He was a real person, by the way. So there you go. It was called the chronovisor.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. I believe they did have it. And there's a lot that happens when you start changing, working with electromagnetic energy. I mean, look at the story of the Philadelphia experiment, right?
Yep. I'm just getting this into Twitter. Okay, F2B, just to get everybody on the same page. All right, I need to take a break. You want to stick around and do some overtime?
Let's do some overtime. Let's do it.
That's what I'm talking about. Our guest tonight, the one and only Jonny Enoch. Let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Johnny, what's your Twitter?
It's Jonny Enoch, JONNYENOCH.
Follow Johnny. I'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
To my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to forbiddenknowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, forbiddenknowledge.tv. Again, visit forbiddenknowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JamieChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Today's Rita's birthday. It's Taco Tuesday, which means I see a taco truck in my future on the way home. There you go. A taco truck tonight. Perfect night. Now, Johnny, we're into overtime, and I wanted to ask you this. Jason Quitt was on the show with us last night. It was just amazing. Another great show.
Quitspiracy.
Yeah, Quitspiracy number 8. And I asked him, I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Jason last night, which is this. The United States and Canada, we share a very long border. One would think that Canadians and Americans are one and the same. We are not. We're two different countries and two different foundations and two different outlooks. But we share this common border and a huge mutual respect between the two countries. But you guys are up there looking down south at one of the most chaotic situations where you guys, crazy Americans or not, however you want to look at us, there's always mutual respect. But right now, what's it like up there? How are you guys taking all of this chaos in? Are you guys freaking out, or are you guys just taking this in stride?
Oh, I think it's similar to what everybody in the United States is going through, that there are certain places that you go to that have a different attitude. Like, for example, California. When I was touching down through LAX throughout this last month, or through San Francisco, everything is a much more somber, sort of, restrictive attitude towards what everybody's going through. Hey, there's no music everywhere. Most of the shops are closed down. People are wearing gloves, and almost some of the travelers are almost wearing hazmat suits. Whereas there are certain states, going to Colorado, every shop is open in the Denver airport. It's business as usual. People are whistling. There's music playing. It's sort of a different environment. The same in Canada is that right now Montreal has shut down everything. And there are certain places back east that are that sort of environment, whereas on the West Coast here, we have more of a laid back attitude towards it all. But there are still people demonstrating and getting out there. I think for the most part, everybody is in this together. They might think that, hey, the United States is going through this political time. But the truth is, Jimmy, and I know a lot of the Fadernauts can relate to this if they're listening over in Europe or some other place, is that most politicians are trying to seize this moment. Like if you're over in a place like Hungary, that Viktor Orban is saying, hey, I'm going to use this moment to, do a power grab, or going over to Putin or whoever it is. It's a political moment also.
Well, and is what is happening down here in the United States, and certainly the media, with the protest and the economy, and certainly the pandemic, and we're in the middle of an election year. I would say that the appearance is a genuine one, where the United States is coming unglued for the first time. Is this something that concerns Canada?
We have our own issues in Canada. People are definitely all over the map politics wise as well. It's just, I think it's just hidden better, so it's not perfect anywhere. And to be really honest with you, Jimmy, just like we were talking about with Sylvia and her predictions, I think it's all by sort of an orchestrated design. Whether you want to say the universe has laid it out for us like this, but we're meant to go through this. I believe that we're at this pivotal point of intersectionality where now we're going to be turning into very interesting developing times. And I believe that's where Sylvia is starting to hit it on the head. What we're going to see take place in this decade, these next 10 years are like, this is the make it or break it moment. There's going to be such strange events that are going to catapult us and leap us forward into the future, that it's going to be kind of like we are no longer going to be moving with training wheels. We're going at Mach speed towards the future now, right?
Well, I at the beginning of the pandemic, and in a strange way, I still hold this belief. But in the beginning of the pandemic, where I was reporting the news every day, the doom and gloom and what was going on, the reports from, at that time it was Italy and it was Iran and certainly China, these very, very dark things that were going on, which was forcing the cruise industry and the airline industry and the shutting down and the flights and the travel and the layoffs and the furloughs, where it was all doom and gloom. And I had said to everybody then, this is before everything jumped off, where I said, you know what, we're going to come out of this. We're going to take care of each other. We're going to help other countries and everybody around us and our neighbors. And we're going to come out of this with a new understanding and compassion for everybody around the world, and it's going to be so much better in the end. It may not seem like that now, but we're going to come through this with an enlightenment. And I really felt that, and I still do in a strange way. But what I didn't anticipate when I made these comments back in March and in April, that we would see all of this divisiveness, not only in politics, but the racial side of things, and of course the shutdown and the pandemic, and the issue of wearing or not wearing a face mask, or the issues of the pandemic being a hoax or not, the conspiracies behind the death numbers and the infection numbers, and testing, and the absolute craziness that came out of this. I thought it was going to be the opposite. I thought we would have the opposite effect, that we would rise up and take care of each other and realize that we needed to move forward. It just shocked me that we are where we are now. I think everybody in the United States, which rolls out into the rest of the world, we're all nervous. We're nervous. It's like a powder keg.
And it is, that's the thing when looking at the greater perspective and trends that we've seen, that there is this great unfolding of something, this transition on this journey of life. And again, I hate to tote this book again, but that's where it's interesting to see the pattern of how this is this pivotal event that changes us. All of this that's unfolding, it's sort of like everything that we were in cruise control with before. We thought we had it all figured out, but the point being is that No, there was a lot of problems in our own backyard. We've had all kinds of issues with inequalities. There's been a broken system for a long time, and maybe this is our opportunity to fix it. And sometimes it gets a little uncomfortable. Like look at the dance of Shiva the Destroyer. That's the destroyer of worlds, or the phoenix that rises from the ashes, Jimmy, or the mother octopus that gives up her life for her young octopi to feed off of her in new life. It's the great simpatico of life, right? It's always regenerating from the old.
Yes, and I see that, and I feel that. And there's the other part about that where I have lived just like everybody else that's alive right now. We have lived through war after war after war, and certainly Iraq and now Syria too as well, where this is something that has been going on since 2001, 2002. We're in 2020. That's an 18-year-long conflict. World War II was 5 years, start to finish. Right? That was a world war, and we have had war after war after war. It didn't stop with Korea. It didn't stop with Vietnam. You think about what happened in Bosnia, and certainly the other wars around the world. And I thought that war would seem silly now. After going through this pandemic and crashing the world economy, and everything that is going on, you know what's on it should be on the last of everybody's minds is starting a war. And this weekend, tensions in Armenia and Azerbaijan kicked off, and we're like on the brink. And I just thought, does anybody need this now? Does anybody want this now? Why would somebody think that war is a good thing? You know, and maybe war was going to be pushed further and further back, you know, and maybe not considered moving into the future. And this jumped off with Armenia over the weekend, and it really bums me out. It's the last thing we need right now on this planet. We've got everything else that we're dealing with. We don't need another war anywhere on this planet.
I totally agree with you, Jimmy. But, you know, it's this great spiritual evolution that we're going through now. If you want to call it the age of Aquarius, you want to call it the return of the Kepler cycle, like the Egyptians predicted a long time ago, there is a cleansing and a changeover. And, you know, let me ask you this. How much time do we have left in our overtime? How much time can we go?
We've got about 17 minutes.
Okay. So it's interesting because I got 3 points I want to hit with you. First of all, are the weather changes that we can see that are going to take place, especially over this decade, that are going to get very interesting starting next year. I also would love to talk to you about what she said is going to be the rise up of an Antichrist-like figure.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. That was a very interesting part of the book, too, as well. Okay, what's point number 3?
Point number 3 is we got to end with this today. Point number 3 is we got to bow out about the changes that are going to take place after the 2030s into the 260s, the 275, and the incredible future that will lay it out. But she will talk about that and how we got some amazing future to look forward to. So do you want to hit the weather? Should we hit the weather?
Yeah, let's briefly touch on the weather. I think that is a major concern, considering what we just went through over the last month here on the West Coast. That continues. Is the West Coast is on fire.
It totally is. And she mentions that, these darkening skies. She says on page 112 that in the 2020s, the early 2020s, we are going to have crop failures, atmospheric dust, polluting the air. That is we already are seeing that with these crop failures. And she says it's going to happen by 2020. She starts talking about the polar tilt. Again, we know about this, that we are getting certain pressure in our underwater mantles. She says by the years 2025 to 2030, she starts talking about almost tidal waves and casualties that these aren't really going to hit humans so much as far as casualties in that respect, but she starts talking about this happening in Florida on the South Atlantic seaboard, particularly in 2028. However, what she says is that in the early 2020s, we're going to develop strange walls made of steel and titanium-like alloy in areas to put around certain places, including on the seaboards, that are going to keep us safe. That's pretty strange, right?
Right. And it seems like an easy prediction, basically. But when you tag 2020 on it and you look at what's going down and the pollutants that are in the air from the West Coast that have, traveled all around the world, the quality of the air, which we were enjoying for a minute because of the pandemic. Everybody was saying here in LA, wow, you can see Los Angeles for the first time in 100 years. And all of that ended. All of that ended. Very interesting. What did she say about the Antichrist?
Okay, well, before we get to the Antichrist really quickly, she did mention, meteors and stuff, not only next year that won't do too much damage, and then one in 2029, but she did mention that because of underground volcanoes, they're going to melt away stuff and reveal Atlantis and Lemuria. Well, again, we just saw in the last day that Antarctica is now having underground volcanic activity. They just said in the news that they're expecting it to melt away a lot of the ice in Antarctica. So I think right there we have something coming up that's very plausible. Now, she says, as she gets into this idea of an Antichrist, she said there's going to be a guy that's going to rise up around 2030, and she says he's going to be out of Syria. He's going to have gorgeous jet black hair. He's going to be a pacifist at first, like a peacekeeper. And as we see this guy rise up, this is on page 154. She says he's already born. He was born in the year 2005 or 2006. And around the year 2030, he's going to come back and he's going to be this Christ-like figure. Now, before we go into him, weren't you telling me a while back to check out a show on Netflix called The Messiah?
Yes.
Remember you watched that?
Yes. But wait a minute. He was born in 2005 and rises in 2030. He's 15 years old?
Yeah, he comes up around 20. He comes up into 2030. Born in 2005.
Okay.
He's gonna come.
All right,
he
continue.
comes up and he believe. What's that?
I said continue. You think I'm interrupting? I'm not.
Oh, I think I was just hearing some feedback. Okay, so she says he comes out, and at first he comes out and everyone thinks this guy's great. They're like, he's a peacekeeper. He's a pacifist. He's into humanitarianism. At first he takes off, she says, with people from Europe wanting to come see him. Because what's going to become very popular after the year 2025, she says, are these healing centers popping up around the world. So he's going to be one of those guys that has these healing centers. And when he starts gathering up this, he's going to be uniting the Middle East, and Americans, others will come to him. And then later on, he turns into Mr. Nuclear Armaments, and we get a different story about him, right?
So that's 20 years from now then, between 2030 and 2040.
That's it.
And she says Syria.
Yeah, like Damascus. I mean, that's an interesting place for him to come from.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, at least it wasn't from the United States.
At least we got enough stuff going on over here. They let them have the Antichrist.
No, I would go with Justin Trudeau on that one.
Yeah. You ask a lot of Canadians, they'll say we already have him. So,
oh man. You know what's funny? You know what's funny about Justin? And I don't do politics. I just don't. But let me say this. When I first saw him, we know about his family and his legacy and everything. When I first saw him, I was like, man, what a hip guy. Man, totally. Can you imagine if we had somebody like that here in the United States? Young, hip, fresh. And then he just said some things that made me scratch my head, certainly in interviews. I was like, what the... very interesting guy. How long do prime ministers last in Canada? What's the term?
As long as they like. That's the thing. Canadians, they just keep voting him back in. And, I agree. The one thing about Justin, he comes up there, he's got great hair.
Yes, he does, man. And he sports the clothes.
He's got great hair. He had a lot of experience as a drama teacher and a ski instructor before he got into politics. And I mean, he always has fantastic socks. You ever been to those little kiosks in the malls?
Yes.
He's always out there. So, I mean, a lot of people kind of feel that, he's a very entertaining guy in that respect. So I'm like you. I stay out of politics. I personally think politics are a circus, and they're just for show. The real world that's going on behind the scenes is evolving in its own realm. So, I say these are just sort of the caricatures or the fun faces on the front.
Now, wait a minute. Shows you what I know about Canadian politics, and I'm sure that most Americans don't know this. You're saying that there are no term limits for the office of Prime Minister in Canada. Justin Trudeau could be the Prime Minister for 50 years.
Yeah, Canadians will just keep voting them back in. And they're very forgiving. Historically, if somebody was there, they could just keep voting them back in and they can get a good run of it.
I didn't know that. I thought I thought for some reason I was thinking it was like 6 years. You're Prime Minister for 6 years. But I didn't know. I didn't know. How long has he been Prime Minister?
It feels like too long. Just one term, one round so far. But we have sort of a partial kind of government in Canada.
How long? Okay. How many? Okay. Each term is for how long?
Well, we have about the same as you guys, and they just run an election, or they can call an early election, to kind of vie for power. But do you know who needs to run for Prime Minister of Canada? You already know the answer.
Jason Quitt.
Jason Quitt.
Yeah, Jason Quitt.
Who needs to be Prime Minister.
He would be an amazing Prime Minister. He looks regal. He's got that look. He's got that look. But wait a minute. You evaded the question. Is it because you don't know? Is it 4-year terms?
Again,
is every 4 years? Every 6 years?
That's it. But the last while, because Canadians are so split on their opinions, these guys always just call an early election. If they just want to get more power, if they want to get in because they don't have all of the seats, they just keep calling them early and say, well, let's get in there because I want to throw the dice again, right?
Is that seriously?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But, the one thing is that, again, you get Jason Quitt up there. He does a couple of postures of power, and he would just fix all of the political chaos that we have, because the Canadian politics are just as strange as American politics, no matter what people say.
Now, and also you guys legalized pot, right?
We did, but again, did they do it the right way? Places like Colorado or even California for the longest time probably had a much better system. When they rolled it out, they really didn't do it well. They drove the underground market up because they drove up the prices and the regulations on everything else. So people just kind of laugh at it. They got the legal workaround, and they stay away from the official government pot.
So you live in Vancouver?
That's right, BC.
And so you guys have pot shops now, right? Legal pot shops?
Yeah, they're like an iTunes store. You see them on the news. They look like an Apple store where they have all this cannabis and it's in a display case. And
right.
But you guys have dispensaries, right?
Yeah. I shop. I love going to pot stores. I don't smoke. I don't consume. But damn, it's fun, man. I love going to pot stores. There ain't nothing more. When I was a kid, I remember I was like 15 years old, sitting around with my buddies smoking weed. And I said, you know what? When I grow up, I'm going to have my own island, and I'm going to make it my own country, and I'm going to make it illegal not to smoke weed. Well, okay, so it's all fun and games when you're a kid, right? You're never going to get there and things. And I remember saying to my friends, talk about predicting the future, I should have wrote this in a book. I'd have been famous. But I had said to my friends, I said, look, our generation is going to take over the Senate. We're going to take over Congress. We're going to be governors of states. We're going to be the mayors. We're going to be the police. Eventually, we will make pot legal. And my friends are like, nah, man, we'll never have it. Never have it. I said, no, it's inevitable. The man's going to die out. right? That's it. That generation's going to go away. We are going to take over. Well, here we are today. Now, I don't smoke pot. I don't. I like the smell of it. I've smoked enough weed in my life to last forever. It's still in my fatty tissues. That being said, the freedom of going into a pot store, buying weed, and driving down the street with it in your car with the big FU to the man is one of the most freeing things I can do. And I enjoy it, going into a pot store and looking at all the weed and smelling and looking at it. It is a freedom that I enjoy. It's cool. You know, the first time this pot store opens in Burbank, and Rita and I drive. This is the first time. It's like that week, right? It's legalized. We go into this pot store, and I walk in. I couldn't believe it. Giant jars of buds all across the countertop. And I went up and I said, hey, can I check? Yeah, sure. Right? They're unscrewing the top. Smell this, a big giant jar of these. And I'm like, oh my God, what's this called? This is called Martian purple, whatever. And it's I couldn't believe. So Rita and I don't even know what I'm doing. I swear on all that is holy, Johnny. I literally told the woman behind the counter, I want an eighth of that. I want an eighth of that. I want an eighth of that, and of that. And give me some gummies, and I want some joints too. And we walked out of there with all this weed and got in the car and laughed. Pulled out of the parking lot and we're just giddy. I wanted a cop to pull up behind me. I did. And we drove home in the best mood. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. And I didn't smoke any of it. It was just the experience.
That's the thing. It's amazing. We actually witnessed that here since they've legalized weed, that the amount of people smoking have actually gone down. It's no longer this taboo that now that it's everywhere, you don't really smell it anywhere as much as it used to be. When it was illegal, people would be going out there smoking it, having it out in public places. Now it's just disappeared, it seems.
Now, have you gone into a pot store?
I've seen one just for the novelty, but much like you, my pot store is usually Starbucks. I hate to admit it. I'm a
that's not.
guy,
You're avoiding the question. You're not running for public office here, Johnny.
I've been
have
there.
you walked into a pot store and?
I have. It was amazing. You look in there. It's the forbidden fruit. You see, they have the blueberry. They have the bubble gum. All these different kinds. It is just amazing. And there's like 100 types of Kush, and so there are all these giant jars with gummies and this vapor, all this. It's amazing. There's so much pot technology. It's incredible.
Johnny, man, what a great conversation tonight. And I know that as soon as we end the show tonight, you're going to fire up your bong, and that's okay.
I don't actually.
No, it's okay.
I don't smoke. I'm
you
like
can
you,
say
Jimmy,
whatever.
but I think it's cool.
You can say whatever you want, man. We're not buying it, Johnny. You're too hip. Johnny, thank you for the conversation, man. Jimmy, and I look forward to hanging out with you again.
I look forward to it too. Jimmy, one last thing. Can I end with this?
Sure. Okay. End with whatever you want, pothead.
Okay, thanks, pothead number 2, Jimmy. I can't wait to hang out with you because then I'm going to find out the truth if you really did eat those gummies.
What's going on?
So here's the thing. Ending our conversation tonight, we got to finish it off with this. Sylvia says by the year 2060, to moving forward, that we are going to get to this incredible place of gorgeous peace and unity and humanity. But she does talk about something strange. She says that as we go out into, I believe it's the areas of the 2060s, she says we're going to be living in communal areas, super high technology. Everything is very advanced. She said that people are going to be more fluid. We're going to see this trend just like we're seeing in 2020 when, people are moving away from marriage more into like a civil kind of a union. She says by 2060, there's going to be this communal trend where people are more free loving like the 60s for a while, but then like almost a polygamous world. And then she says by the 2075s, it comes back into more what we see today, more like people coming and congregating into these relationship situations. But she says that we have a very positive, amazing world. And she says, for those that are listening, that are going to make it through this, don't get discouraged by the dark world that people might be reporting or are looking at, because all of you are going to make it, and we have a lot to look forward to.
That's because you are Jonny Enoch. Thank you for the conversation tonight, Johnny. Absolutely
Good night,
amazing.
Jimmy.
Yeah, absolutely. My best to everybody up there in the Great White North. Thank you so much. Jonny Enoch. Absolutely great conversation. I can't wait till he's on the show with us again. You never know where it's going to go. You know what he's doing now. The show's over. Fade to Black's executive producers Rita Camarion. Show's produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2020 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black of the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, John Greenwald of the Black Vault. Until then, I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.